CFR psych meeting. This is my world, folks. These are a mama moose and a adolescent moose that were in my yard last week. We don't have snow, but the mama moose was back this morning. So it's always an interesting day here in the Rocky Mountains.
It's beautiful.
Yeah,
Really?
they are, but boy, you don't want to get near them because they can be mean, particularly if
Yeah.
they've got a baby. Okay, so today's presentation is titled Meeting Federal Law 34 CFR 600.2. And this has to do with, we all think of it as our Education Act that tells us what, as educators, whether it's higher ed or K through 12, teachers must do. For example, Tom and Melissa know this very well. When they hire faculty, they must meet certain criteria, right? We all know that. We all have to have our number of hours in psychology and at least a master's degree and da, 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 da. That comes from this law, as well as what we are most familiar with is how many clock hours a course must be set up on based on how many credit hours the college awards the student, 3 credit hours. And that is what we call, anybody know the term? David, I know you know this term. What is that term when we determine clock hours for a course and we set it up in a course? Oh, you know this, Carnegie hours, right? Carnegie Institute that determined way back in the early 1800s the number of clock hours that a course must be. No? Okay, all right, let's go on. So we've had this 34 CFR 600 out there for many, many, many years, but it pertained to face-to-face classes. And finally, this summer, after many, many months and years, a couple of years of haggling about what is education and how do we deliver education, we had some lobbying groups and that worked with federal employees in the Department of Education to define what distance education is. Originally, the federal government wanted to define distance education as synchronous delivery, which meant like maybe remote, like everything was recorded online or in a media site and delivered that way. So this is, can everybody see the slide okay? I'm having to move my people over here.
Yep.
So this is the new definition. Education that uses one or more of the technologies to deliver instruction to students who are separated from the instructor or instructors. Some courses have 2 instructors. And to support, and this is important, that's why this is in bold, regular and substantive interaction between the students and the instructor or instructors. Either, and this is really important too, synchronously or asynchronously. And we all do this, right? This, finally, the federal government has caught up with what we have been doing for, at least in the district, for about 20 years when we deliver online courses. Okay, now this is a new regulation. This is a revision of the federal act, and it will go into effect July the 1st, next July 1st, 2021. So it is still in negotiations right now. They're still tweaking some of the wording in this new CFR. Okay, there's 5 critical factors in differentiating correspondence and distance education. Anybody know of an example of a correspondence course that we had in ACCD? Tom knows.
I took correspondence courses before.
Okay. And what were they like? How were they delivered?
You pretty much were given some instructions and you did it on your own.
Right. And how did you get that information?
Actually, it was mailed to me.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what correspondence courses are. We had at one time, 25 years ago in Alamo colleges, we had telecourses. Linda Shuley remembers those telecourses. Those were correspondence courses. You know, everything went through email and mail. We mailed out their tests. Remember that? And we had the help of Barbara Knox that broadcast the videos that were supposedly to replace our lectures. And it was pretty much one way. So here's the difference between correspondence and distance ed. Distance ed should be delivered through an appropriate form of online media. It must use instructors to meet accreditor requirements for instruction. There should be at least 2 forms of substantive interaction. Now, you're going to see that term again and again. So, you know, kind of register that term, substantive interaction, in an online course. Number 4, there must be scheduled and predictable opportunities for instructor and student interaction. Now, at one time when this new definition of distance ed was in negotiations, this word scheduled used to be regular. So there was quite a bit of dissension about that word regular opportunities for instructor-student interaction, and it was changed to scheduled, which is to our benefit. And then number 5, the 5th criteria that differentiates correspondence from distance ed courses is that instructors must be responsive to students' requests for support. In our telecourses, there was very little opportunities for students to interact with us as instructors, because we would run those numbers up, wouldn't we, Tom? Like 50 students in a telecourse? I can't remember.
Yeah, we do. And St. Philip's is doing that with internet.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole nother topic that we can talk about. You know, today's presentation is about on student workload, but I could easily do a presentation on faculty workload in online courses and what that does when you run the numbers up, the enrollment numbers up in an online course, what it does to us as faculty in trying to meet those needs of students and provide, here's this key word, substantive interaction. The more students you have, the less substantive interaction. Yeah, I see Melissa nodding her head. Yep. Okay, let's move on. So the definition, the new, oops, let me go back just a second. Previous. Okay, the new definition of distance ed contains 4 criteria. The first 2 are up here at the top, delivery options and definition of instructor. We're not going to go over those. We already know that delivery, there's about 4 delivery options. One is through the internet, one is through synchronous, one is through activities that are delivered through a website like our Macmillan or McGraw-Hill. So the federal government has approved several of these delivery options. We easily meet these delivery options. We easily meet the definition of instructor because we've all been approved through our credentials. Okay, these last two are really important. So this third part of the definition is, again, this substantive interaction, which means engaging students in teaching, learning, and assessment consistent with the content under discussion, and also includes at least two of the following: providing direct instruction, which our fully online courses don't provide direct instruction, but our remote courses do, right? Number two, assessing or providing feedback on students' coursework. We do that, right? Okay, number three, providing information or responding to questions about the content of a course or competency. We do that. When students email us and say, or they question, and I know Stan knows this very well, we have students that question the answer on quizzes, and we're very quick to respond back. We'll go into our textbook and try to figure out what happened to the test bank for that one question, and we'll respond. So we are responding to questions about content of a course or competency. Number four, facilitating a group discussion regarding the content of a course or competency. We do this. Many of us have weekly discussion topics that students must respond to, and we facilitate that group discussion. We're not grading it yet, but we're facilitating it. In fact, this number four is very important because you want to be reading what your students are writing. It's real important because there can be some students off topic or some students that will have some kind of disruptive behavior or inappropriate language in that discussion post. So that's a whole nother topic that I could talk about and present on someday. And then number five, other instructional activities approved by the institution or programs accrediting agent. So other instructional activities, what do you think that could be that the college has approved?
It'd be the built-in assignments on the digital platform.
Yes. It's all of our IMs that we have collectively as a department approved, and that has been approved by, I don't know, Tom, does it ever have to be approved by district, what instructional activities we use?
Not really.
Not really, but you can bet when the accrediting agency comes in, when SACS comes in, when are they coming in? Next year, Tom?
Yeah, for the 5-year.
Yeah, they're going to be looking at our online courses. And by that time, this new definition, federal definition of distance ed, they will be looking at these things. We know, because our courses, through all of our hard work this past year, we know that our instructional activities meet one of the QM criteria, which is that we must have up-to-date instructional activities. We can't be using a textbook that was published 10 years ago, particularly in our field when it changes so much. So anyway, these are five types of substantive interaction that our online courses and our remote courses must meet. And we easily do this. We do more than two of these. And then number four, let me move is that an institution ensures regular interaction between a student and an instructor or instructors prior to the student's completion of the course. Again, number one, in our courses, we've got to provide opportunities for substantive interaction. Now, let's stop and think about what exactly does it mean, substantive interaction? Anybody have any ideas?
I mean, direct communication seems like a simple definition.
That's one. That is one, yes.
I-
Regular interaction between the instructor and the students. And then there's two other types of substantive interactions.
I think that providing feedback on their work,
Yes,
that you have assigned to them.
right. And that's between the instructor and the students.
Mhm.
What are the other two types of substantive interactions?
Student to student.
Students to students, yes, we've got to give students an opportunity to learn from each other. That's very important. And we do that either through discussions or group projects. Like I know Susanna's got a wonderful group project in her human sexuality course. And then what is the third type of substantive interaction? Has to do with our IMs. The content. Substantive interaction with the content. So we're not just delivering passive lectures. We have to give opportunities for the student to interact with the content. And we do that through McGraw-Hill Connect and through Macmillan Launchpad. Lots of opportunities to interact with the content, not just passive reading the ebook. Right? So those are the three types of substantive interactions that the federal government's talking about. It's not just all one way between the instructor and the students, but it's students to students and content, students into the content. Okay, and then the second point under regular interaction is that monitoring the student's academic engagement. That's our job as the instructor, is to monitor that progress and ensure that there's prompt and proactive engagement in substantive interaction with the student when needed on the basis of such monitoring or upon request by the student. We do this almost daily, right? We're watching who takes those quizzes, who doesn't take those quizzes. If they're not taking them, we're sending out messages. If the academic performance is not what we're wanting, we're emailing that student. We're using the early alert system. You know, we're doing this. But what's important to know about this new definition of distance education is that when the accrediting agency comes in, or when you are teaching, you know why you're doing these things. It's to meet this federal law. It's not just because we've all gone through the online certification program and they told us this is what we need to do. This is meeting a federal law. This is a big deal. Okay, let me move this down to the bottom again. Okay, let's talk about clock hours and credit hours. This is where the change, a significant change was made in this new federal law, in that originally it referred strictly to synchronous, to students in a face-to-face classroom. I want to say butts in the seats. And it was all determined by clock hours. So if you had a 3 credit hour course, you were in lecture for 3 hours. And that's what this meant. So originally, in the negotiations of this new distance ed definition, they were referring strictly to synchronous education, but through a lot of lobbying of our wonderful policy organizations that advocate for distance education, they were able to convince the federal authorities that they should look at distance education as asynchronous, not just synchronous delivery, but asynchronous. And the federal government finally justified this change by making the following statement, that our position is that the requirement of supervision of clock hours in an asynchronous learning environment is met when the institution is capable of documenting the specific form of academic engagement associated with the activity, and the institution has technological resources and policies and procedures that are sufficient to monitor and document the time each student spends performing that activity. And this, document the time each student spends performing that activity. This gets to the meat of today's presentation. How do we do that? How do we know how much time a student spends in the course? You know, all of us have done a great job in designing and developing these online courses and putting in our own personal assignments. But how do we know it's enough to meet the federal definition of the clock hours in asynchronous delivery? Have you ever thought about this? Is this new information to you?
What about surveying your students?
Serving, what do you mean, Melissa?
Like asking, like taking some of your students who are some of your high performers, and maybe even low performers, and asking them to kind of keep track of how long it's taking them to do specific types of assignments.
Yeah, that'd be a great idea. A great idea.
Doesn't Canvas rate
Yeah.
student activity on a 3-star, 4-star?
Performance or activity level?
Yeah,
Yes, they do. But the problem with that is
yeah.
you don't know if they're just have their computer logged into that activity and they've walked away. So that's kind of the problem with that, you know, performance activity, watching that performance activity.
But in that stead, Canvas will also log you out if it's left idle too long. And the other
Oh.
thing is, if you use a digital platform from one of the books, which I believe we all do, or the majority of us do anyway, you can actually go in and look at how long did this person spend on this activity.
Right.
And so, I mean, I don't know about y'all, but if you had the time, you know, wherever that time is, I mean, I guess you could actually sit there and, you know, crunch the numbers. But I also know that other assignments that I've added on top of the digital platform that we're using, or a lot of us are using, in order for them to complete that assignment, I know for a fact it would take hours of research, hours of their time in order
Right.
to
Right.
in order to produce the end result.
Right. And this is exactly what we're going to try to determine what our student workload hours is in our courses. At this point, you know, we're going to have to kind of estimate, and we're going, let's move on. So just, you know, a recap of defining the credit hour. It's the amount of student work or worked, you know, what they've completed, defined by an institution as approved by the institution's accrediting agency. Okay, we already know what that is. Reasonably approximates not less than 1 hour of classroom or direct faculty instruction and a minimum of 2 hours of out of its student work. So when we design our courses, we kind of keep this in mind. You know, what activities, what asynchronous activities in our course are we going to use as what we call faculty instruction? It could be, you know, reading the textbook. It could be watching PowerPoint presentations, watching videos. That takes the place of us lecturing, right? And then 2 hours out of class student work, that's homework, that's quizzes. And so we use this formula. And so I'm gonna So reasonably approximates not less. These are the clock hours, number one. Number two is the amount of work. And this gets into, number two actually addresses like courses with labs, biology, chemistry, physics, nursing courses. This is how they determine their work. And then number three permits the institution in determining the amount of work associated with credit hours to take into account a variety of delivery methods and measurements of student work. This is what we look at in determining credit hours. And that's why when we looked at our courses using QM, they had to have a variety of delivery methods, right? And we have to have a variety of measurements, how we measure student work. Any questions about this? This is the parameter of what we're going to apply to our course in determining how much time it takes a student to complete the activities in our course. And if we're meeting the definition of an asynchronous credit hour.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
It says approximate 1 hour of direct instruction. Now, is this speaking specifically to online or also face-to-face courses? Because we're doing 3 hours a week.
Right. And this is based on 1 credit. So it would be
One
3
credit.
hours, 3
Got it.
hours of classroom work, and then 6 hours outside of classroom work. But you combine those. So altogether, it's 9 hours. 9 hours for a 16-week course. Right? In an 8-week course, it's 18 hours. Okay. So there is Rice University. These two researchers have developed a wonderful course workload estimator where we can input different parameters about our course. We all know we have reading assignments. We have writing assignments, such as maybe an essay, a term paper, a midterm essay, final exam essay. We have some discussions where students again are writing. We expect students to set aside X number of hours to study for exams or quizzes like chapter quizzes and time on other assignments. All of our courses have these other assignments, like it might be the learning curve activities or the activities that have been created in 2301 to meet SLO objectives. So we all have these other assignments, like, it could be watching videos, watching or reading the PowerPoint presentations. So we're going to use this enhanced course workload estimator, and I hope I don't lose you, but let me see what happens. Let me see if I can get out here and if it's going to go. So can everybody still see the screen?
It's the PowerPoint.
You still see the PowerPoint?
You may want to unshare and reshare.
Okay. I don't know if it's gonna. Here it is. Okay, so everybody's going to go to this website here in just a little bit. This is the Center for Advancement of Teaching at Rice University, and this is their Workload Estimator 2.0. It's actually the Enhanced Course Workload Estimator. Let me see if I can't get this zoomed in a little bit more. And it's going to have course information, class duration, we're going to pick 16 weeks, and then we're going to say, we're going to look at our textbook and how many pages per week do we want students to read. Usually all of us are on at least 1 chapter per week, right? And then we're going to look at the page density. How many words are on that page? You know, some of our books have a lot of pictures and not that many words. So you're going to determine, and there's a drop down menu here, you can pick how many words. Most textbooks have 750 words on a page, according to their calculations. Okay. And then what is the difficulty level? Do we want students to learn some new concepts or many new concepts? Probably many new concepts, particularly in 2301. And what is the purpose of them reading? To understand, engage? Probably we're going to want them to engage. And then in the next column is our writing assignments. So just think globally of your course. How many pages per semester do you want students to write? In my course, we have a midterm essay and a final essay. And altogether, that is a minimum probably of 6 pages per semester. And then you have to determine, and this is kind of guesswork. Remember, this is called an estimator, But in good faith, you try to think of, you know, what is it that you're requiring? What are the opportunities that you are putting out in your course for students to meet the total 144 hours? Because we want, for a 3 credit hour course, 144 hours, right? 3 hours in lecture, 6 hours, 9 hours times 16 weeks comes out to 144 hours. That's the goal. That's what we're trying to get to. So how many posts per week? This is the discussion column. And the text is for, you can have text or audio, video. And then what's the number of words in that discussion post? And what's really cool about this is it lets you manually adjust. So if you need to manually adjust hours per week that they spend in discussion posts, you can do it here. And then right below discussions is exams. This is your essay exams, or no, not your essay exams. This is your quizzes, chapter quizzes, or module quizzes. And how many exams are there? So I know many of us use chapter quizzes, and there's usually 15 because there's 15 chapters to a book. And how many hours do we expect them to study for each quiz? Maybe 3, maybe more. If they're take home, which basically they kind of are considered take home, but the exam time is limited to, for a chapter quiz for me, it's 25 minutes. So this is how you can adjust this. And then over here in the last column is other assignments. So your other assignments are all the other little interactive with the content activities that you have. In the lifespan course, it is the learning curve or the connect or the interactive videos, the data connection. It's whatever else you're having the student do that. And how many are there? In the lifespan course, there's 33 learning curve assignments and hours per assignment. And this means hours that they interact with the ebook and answering those learning curve. And I'm going to estimate that at probably 2 hours. And it's independent. And then your class meeting times, if you have any. Usually in an asynchronous class, we're not going to have this. But if you're teaching remote, this is where a lot of your hours are going to be spent. And then down here in the very bottom is your total. Now, I've not entered numbers for every parameter here, so it's not coming out correct. So this was just an example. So I'm going to stop sharing and go back to the PowerPoint presentation.
But
Any questions so far?
we want it to show between what 9 and 12 hours, or 12 to 15 hours a week.
Yes, but it's going to come out as a total.
But it doesn't. It comes out to, you know, however many hours a week.
Well, let me get back down
I mean,
in.
I'm looking at the page. I copied it out, and
Yeah, okay. Yeah, keep that page or bookmark that page because you're going to want to look at that.
right. But the estimates say, like, you know, 13 hours a week. Is that, you know, is that what we're shooting for?
Yes. Yeah, if you're teaching a 16-week course and there's supposed to be 3 hours of lecture and 6 hours, that's 9 hours. So 9 hours a week. If you're teaching a flex, then it would be 18 hours.
And what about office hours?
Okay.
Office hours are not student workload. That would be a faculty workload.
Right, but you're supposed to be available to the students, you know, part of the engagement.
Right, but it doesn't
Okay.
count towards the course hours.
Okay, of course.
Yeah.
Well,
Or you could put something in there for class time. You know, I didn't put anything in there for class time. So let me. So these are mainly the 3 parameters that you're putting, but there is that one, David, for class time that I said was probably just for remote. Then you could put that in there, but that would be reported more on the instructor workload.
Yeah, because that won't be consistent for every student.
Right. Well, actually, and you know, notice this little caveat at the very bottom of this slide. The course workload estimator is just an estimator. So we're going to be hard pressed to find any 2 students who have identical reading rates, identical writing rates, identical ideas on how they should study. And this is a good place for you to plug in the study techniques from the learningscientist.org website if you share any of this information with your students. So you'll notice that some online courses, for every assignment, there is an indicator of how much time a student should spend on that activity. Melissa, haven't you done that in 2301? On some of the activities you said estimated time?
Yeah, on the reading assignments, you can select the time frame that you want for them to spend reading and answering questions.
Yeah. So at some point, I don't know, maybe after this new federal law is passed, the college, the district may tell all of us for all of our assignments in those modules, we must give an estimate of how much time it will take the average student to complete that assignment. That's something for us to keep in the back of our minds. It may be coming down the pike. At this point, none of this is law, but it's coming. And when we have SACs coming in, they'll probably be asking some questions about this. So here again, there were several questions on how do we determine a student workload benchmark for a 3 credit hour course. And I've just put it out here for a 16-week course and an 8-week course. Now I know we're also doing, what are they, 5 or 4 week courses, winter semester and Maymester. I don't know how you do that. Honestly, in those courses, I don't know how you provide this much interaction, substantive interaction in 5 weeks.
Or 3 weeks.
Or 3 weeks. Yeah. Without compromising the content. That doesn't require a response from anybody. I'm just throwing it out there. Oh, okay. So this is kind of our benchmark that we're looking at. So 9 clock hours per week in a 16-week, 18 clock hours per week in an 8-week course. Any questions?
So 32 in a summer class.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a lot.
Mhm.
Okay, so all of this information about the course workload estimator is coming from Sue France, who is a psych professor at Highline Community College up in Oregon. I think Highline Community College is in Oregon. Anyway, she's been around for many years and she is an awesome professor. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she's very much involved with Macmillan learning programs, and she does these blogs in Macmillan Learning Center. And so here's what she did for her Intro to Psych course. And her Intro to Psych course is a 5 credit hour course.
Wow.
So when you read some of this, you'll kind of understand. So this is what she did about when she estimated her reading. She added the total number of pages assigned to read, divide that number by 16 for the number of weeks, and then she's wanting students to learn many new concepts. Remember, that was a drop-down menu to choose. And she wanted her students to be engaged, heavily engaged in the material. I think we do too in our course. And then in her writing assignments, she has a lot of writing assignments. They wrote 27 pages of single-spaced text over the course of the term. Now that could be, you know, short essays, not all one work of art. And she gave her students application essay questions that required maybe argumentative posts, and students could revise. And that was a drop-down menu. And that she manually adjusted the hours per written page to 2 hours. And that's about 30 minutes per essay question. That's generous, probably. Depends on what the essay question is. And then other assignments, she estimated took about 2 hours total between them. So she entered 1 hour per assignment. And then she came up with, for her class that meets about 5 hours in class each week, the students should dedicate about 10 hours the coursework outside. So this meets her parameters for a 5 credit hour course. So that's just an example. Here's one that I did for Lifespan, but it is not, it's not correct. And so this is just an example of one that I did real quick. But what I want us to do now is go to the Enhanced Course Workload Estimator and think about those parameters: the reading, the writing, the discussions, and let's do one. Let's work on one together. And it may be, if you want to take one category, like just the reading, or if you want to take just the writing or the other activities, and then let's put one together and see what we can come up with for 2301. Okay, so here's the link. And I'm going to stop sharing and then go out here, and then let's talk about what we could put in to the workload estimator for, let's see. For 2301. Okay, everybody with me? So I'm here. Hopefully you can see this. Can everybody see the workload estimator?
Yes.
Okay, so course information, and this is for 2301. Are we going to do 16 weeks?
Mhm.
Okay, what's the reading assignment? How many pages per week?
Hmm.
I think it's
About
about
40, isn't
15
it?
for me.
About 40 page, or wait, is it 40 pages or is it 20 pages? Let me check.
Or 35 pages?
Yeah, yeah. Well, in King, it's about 30, looks like, roughly.
Shall we go with 30?
Sure.
Okay. And then page density, what do you think it is? 450, 600, 750? How many words per page?
I would probably say closer to 450.
Think so? Okay. All right. And do we want them to learn some new concepts or many new concepts?
Many.
Many. Okay. And oops, let me get back over here. And then estimated reading rate, 9 pages per hour. Is that about right? Do you think it takes a student 9 pages per hour to read on the average? Or should we manually adjust this?
Hmm.
Should we
Yeah,
leave it
but-
at 9 pages?
It depends. Some are slow readers, some are fast readers, some read and take notes. I mean, that's
Well,
really a wide range.
also, Pam, like for some of us using the shell, the reading is an assignment. So they're not just reading, they're reading and answering questions,
Right.
reading and answering questions. So how do
Right,
we account for that?
right. And so, we could put that over here in other assignments. Those little assignments, those interactive little
reading
quizzes.
The reading assignment itself has questions built in.
Mhm,
Okay,
Connect.
right, right. So shall we leave it at 9 pages per hour? So basically, if the chapter is 30 pages, it's going to take a student 3 hours to read that chapter. About, roughly.
I think that would be probably adequate for when they're doing the questions with it.
Okay.
Because I
So
have
we'll-
an estimator of, I set it at an hour and sometimes it takes them a lot longer.
Right.
Right.
Same.
Okay. Okay. So let's leave that reading assignment like it is. And so then writing assignments. How many pages per semester?
A lot.
We've got all the discussions. It depends on what people are requiring for the discussions. I require 150 words on an original post and 2 posts after that of 100.
Okay, but we've got discussion posts over here. This
That's
is other
different.
writing
Okay.
assignments,
Oh,
like on the APA activities. Are there any writing assignments?
Yes. Yes.
8 to 10 pages, I would.
Yeah, easy,
Yeah.
I would say.
Okay.
I always do writing assignments.
Shall we say 8 or 10?
8.
Okay. And how many words per page?
500, 750, something like that. 500.
Okay. And the genre, is it reflection, argument, or research? I know what it is for Linda. She's doing that research paper.
it's research.
Yeah, it just depends.
Yeah,
Research.
it does.
We can call it
Okay.
research.
All right. And then is there any drafting involved? That means, the first draft, second draft,
Nope.
minimal drafting?
Mhm.
Minimal.
Yes.
Okay. Estimated writing rate, 8 hours per page. Takes a student 8 hours to write one page. Or
With
should we
research
adjust that?
time.
With the research time and such, I mean, that's not really that, not that far-fetched.
Should
Right.
we adjust it up? Or just leave it?
I'd leave it.
Okay. All right, let's leave it for now. Okay, watching videos, podcasts, PowerPoint presentations.
Mm,
This is our lecture here.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
Um,
Mm.
maybe 2.5. I mean, 2.5 is a regular workload,
Yeah.
regular lecture.
Okay, let's just put in 3
Yeah.
because I can't do a half.
Mhm.
Okay, discussion posts. How many posts per week
Wow. Oh.
in a 16-week course?
I've been going with 3.
3 posts per week?
Well,
Ooh,
that I want them to reply to, yes, but that's me.
So is
Okay.
it 1 post and 2 responses, or 3 separate posts with original post and 2 responses?
3, they're to engage in 3 discussions and make a reply to each.
I do
And
1.
I'm not putting, I'm being minimal on the number of what they have to say about it. They just have to say something.
yeah.
Mm.
So an average of 2 posts a week? Should we say that, or 3?
What's everybody else do? I do 1.
I
With
do
2
about
responses.
1 too, so.
I feel like 1 or 2 is fair. It's
Yeah, 1 or 2, so
Okay.
in the middle of the road, say 2.
And they're all text, or
you could
does
make it
anybody?
2. I was thinking you
did-
could make it 2, and one of those is the replies to the others that they may be.
Yeah.
Right,
Mhm.
right. And everybody's using text, not audio, video?
Right.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, and then the average words length
Well,
is
between
what?
the 2 posts, it
250.
would be 250
Right.
for me.
Okay. And then estimated hours per week on discussions is 2 hours, or should we manually adjust it?
Say 2.
Probably 2 hours.
That
2.
seems right.
Okay. All right. And then exams. And these are quizzes,
Okay.
Mm.
1 per week,
or quizzes, or
midterm and a final.
midterm exams, or final exams.
Oh,
So
Seven.
how many do you have?
17.
15, 16, yeah, 17.
17?
Mhm.
Yeah, about 17.
Okay. And then study hours per exam.
It's less for the weekly versus the midterm and final.
Right.
Yeah, it is. So could we average per exam?
Yeah. An average would probably be 3 or 4 hours per week.
All right, let's do
For
4
exams?
then.
Mhm.
Yes, do 4. And take home exams, should we indicate that? What's the exam time limit? This is hard when you've got quizzes and exams combined together.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, because some people don't time the quizzes versus you time the midterm and the final.
Right.
That's
Should we
hard.
just uncheck that then?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and then in other assignments, there's 33 here because there's 33 learning curve, but we can adjust this to 15, chapter. I mean, I don't know what.
Yes.
We're doing 2301, and for every module, for every chapter module, Melissa, how many little activities are in there that aren't a quiz?
There's a lot, but it depends on which ones you use.
Right. This is an estimator. What
Right.
do you think?
I would
There's
say
about 6. Chapter 3 has 6. Chapter 4 has 1, not then 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 to 6.
Okay, let's just say 6.
Per semester?
Oh, no. Okay.
No,
that's
per week.
per week. So it would be, gosh,
Is
6
that-
times 15.
Because that's not counting like the other SLO assignments or the test or the reading assignment.
Well, yeah, we need to include all of those.
But we are,
Not the reading assignment.
okay, but the post-test is part of we did that under the exam, right?
Yeah.
So it'd be one, so all of these, even the SLO assignments, 1, 2,
Yeah.
3, 4, 5, 6. 6.
6 times 15 is 90. Is that right? 6 times
That's a lot.
15
Yeah.
That's
is
a lot.
90.
Mhm.
90 other assignments. Whoa.
So that's,
Okay.
are you doing all the assignments in the publisher's LMS? Is that what you're doing?
Not all of them. No,
Every single one of them? Because I know I don't do all of them. I
no,
pick
I
and
don't do all of them.
Right.
But
This,
that's, some of them take 2 and 3 minutes. It's like
Yeah.
a 1-minute video and 2 questions.
Right. But is it 90 assignments that you have in those modules?
I just counted a couple of the modules and there were 6 assignments.
well, there's, yeah, there's how many modules? 15 modules, not counting
Mhm.
the final exam.
Right.
So that's why 6 times 15 modules. That's how I came up with the number 90.
Right.
Should I lower it?
I don't use that many from the
No, I don't
LMS.
either. It's too much. It overwhelms.
I just pick which
Yes.
ones are applicable and which ones are actually, giving them a good learning experience, but not all of them do.
Okay.
Yeah, we can leave it there. I mean,
Well, let's leave it there. And so hours per assignment, I can't hardly get it.
It's minutes. Yeah.
See, if I leave it at 0, I don't know what that's going to do to this. Okay, any class meeting times?
Not for complete
Right,
online.
right. Okay, look at our workload estimator.
That's a lot.
Hours per week, 15.58. That, how close can you get to 16 hours per week? We did it.
Mhm.
We did it.
That's with the 90 assignments though.
Yes,
mhm.
right.
But
But
I don't think we all assign all 90 assignments.
no, but you
Right.
do other things in your course.
Right.
Yes.
And so all I'm saying is this is an estimator. Go out and do this estimator for your own courses.
Mhm.
But just know that you've got a benchmark to meet 16 hours per week. And if the feds ever come in, or the SACS accreditation committee comes in, or, somebody from district says, how do you know you are meeting the federal law of distance education for asynchronous delivery? This is your supporting evidence in your
Pam,
course.
I have and this is for a 16-week course.
This is for a 16-week course.
So I thought it was 3 hours per classroom and 6 hours outside of classroom for 9
Yeah.
hours total.
Yeah, for
So
9, 16 is a lot.
you're almost doubling that.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah,
You're
this is
right.
like a flex class.
Yeah, this is like a flex class.
Yeah.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Math was never my forte. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. So yeah, something is probably wrong, and it's probably up here in the other assignments. Okay, that, if there's 15 modules out there, not every single module has 6 little assignments. And what we can't tell, some of them take like 1 or 2 minutes, like Melissa said. You might want to cut that number in half. In fact, let's see what happens if we do 45.
It's calculating it based on 0 hours per assignment. So,
Yeah,
I
yeah, it
mean,
is.
a
We're
lot of
already
this
at 15.
is a lot of this is in
Right.
the writing assignments. A lot of this is in the
Mhm.
Yes.
exams,
Yeah, they're
Right.
the
doing
study
that.
for the exams.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And if you cut them down to like an hour of study time a week, but I mean that doesn't feel like enough, but it's
That's
Right.
where it may be good to look at your stats within the LMSs and also to ask your students how long it's taking them.
Yeah, exactly. Here's some interesting information. There was a link right below the heading that gives you some descriptors of what each of these means. Now, this reading rate is very interesting, and it gives you some descriptive parameters to determine the quantity for reading and writing. Writing difficulties, I think. Yeah, this is interesting. This table, we said that our textbook was probably, what do we say, 600 pages, and we want them to engage in many new concepts, and they're saying 7 pages per hour. I think we selected 9 pages per hour. What estimator did you use, Melissa, to determine reading time?
When you build the assignment in Connect, you can choose how long you want it to take them to get through the chapter.
Okay.
And it bases the questions and what is projected to them as the most important points based on that time
Okay,
frame.
that's cool. That's a really cool feature of Connect.
It is. It's great.
Yeah, that's very nice.
Mhm.
Here's a descriptor on the writing rates. You might want to read that and, do adjustments for that. And then reflections. Oh, and that's your baby. So it's just giving you some good information about how to determine writing and reading levels. So I just wanted to let you know that that was out there. So I'm going to go back and into the PowerPoint presentation. And so we've done that. And then here's just I just love this phrase. I try to think of this at least once a week when I'm trying to sit and grade discussions or grade something. I just love this phrase. Instruction begins with us, the instructors, to learn from the learner. Put yourself in your learner's place so that you may understand what he or she learns and the way he understands it. Is that resonating with anybody?
oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
that's always been my philosophy.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just love this phrase.
Mhm.
So these are the references. These all of you have the PowerPoint presentation. You can go out and read this information. The WCET's article on what the new definition of distance education is going to be and the characteristics are right in this article. Sue Francis' work, and thank goodness she's brought us this information on course workload estimator. The second article by Swingler is academic rigor, and we didn't really get into that at all, but I wanted to give you that link. That is like a 24 white paper research on what does academic rigor mean? And basically, it means some of the things that we've been talking about is what does it mean to have substantive interaction? That's academic rigor. And then the one size does not fit all towards an evidence-based framework for determining online course enrollment sizes in higher ed. I had hoped that I didn't talk about this, but I mentioned it. This is the article that has Again, it's an estimator of workload for faculty. And basically what it says is the more students you have in an online course, the less cognitive interaction you have with students. Now, cognitive interaction is actual coursework. It's not the social interaction. It's the cognitive interaction that you have with students, like group projects or discussions or debates or any maybe service learning. It takes much more time. The larger your class, it takes much more time to facilitate those kinds of activities. And so as instructors, the more students we get, we tend to reduce the amount or eliminate those kinds of cognitive interactions. And that's what this article is about. And that's the end of the presentation. Any questions? Bye-bye, everybody.